Cathy Segal-Garcia on the show today. Let's give her a hand. Woo! All the way from Los Angeles. She got up real early this morning for us. So how are you, Cathy? What's going on in your life anyways?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me on, Judy. It's really nice to talk to you again. You know, I and I would have done it a little later, but I have a piano class.
Yeah, you
I'm
mentioned
taking
that.
piano. So,
You're
yeah,
taking piano.
yes.
Oh, I thought you were giving a piano class.
No, because I've taught myself how to play piano over the years, with, a little bit of aid from musicians. And I play pretty good, but I play the chords in the right hand. And
Yeah.
so now
And
I'm really
the bass note in the left hand. That's what
well,
I
a little
do,
bit of the
Cathy.
bass note, yeah. But now I'm learning chords in the left hand with comping rhythms plus the melody in the right hand.
Oh,
It's
I
very
want to do that.
challenging.
I have been putting this off. I have a really good teacher here in Duisburg, and he says, "When are you gonna come? When are you gonna come?" I really, really, really understand that you want to improve your piano playing. Me too. I think
Yeah.
after this call, I'm going to give the guy a call. Well, no, I'm going to be in the rehabilitation center for 3 weeks after getting operation on my knee. But I'm going to do it. I understand that you want to do that. So, Cathy, I'd like to read just a little bit about your background. You are an amazing person, and I love you to bits because you
Oh,
just
thank
do
you.
so much for the jazz world. And guys, she has a show every single day, like every single day. Jazz Hang noon. What's it called? Tell me right.
The noontime hang. Cathy
Noon
Segal-Garcia's noontime hang.
Noontime hang, and that's where that's where we got to know each other first of all,
Yeah,
right?
that's right. You were my guest.
Yeah, and I was watching your shows, and she's got all these most amazing people on her show. I mean, really amazing, like really amazing. And it's really, if you guys ever want to, I'm going to put the link below anyways. If you want to go and watch some really good interviews with some amazing jazz musicians, not only singers, but with musicians, and you get things out of the eyes of a pianist or a drummer or a bassist as a jazz singer, and it's so, so, so important. Yeah, so I'm going to read a little bit, and
Okay.
you can maybe fill me in if I'm getting off track. Okay,
Sure.
musician singer Cathy Segal-Garcia is a vocalist of real music integrity. I can believe that because Cathy is a really integer. Can you say that in English? Integer?
Uh,
And a person of integrity, I guess you
thank
would call that. Yes.
you.
Poignantly reports critical jazz reviewer. Wherever she travels in the world, audiences and musicians are moved. Yes, I can believe that. Segal-Garcia's deep connection to rhythm and her earthy and organic voice bring a nakedness to her communication, a direct line into one's heart. Her repertoire includes original compositions and modern interpretations of standards and jazz musicians' compositions. Okay, I'm not going to read all of this. I'm going to put this in the info after when this is
Yeah,
finished, right? So I would like to know some of the most, just simple things like where were you born? Where did you grow up? How did you get into jazz? What was your
sure.
biggest influence?
Sure. And I saw Francine ask where to find the show and find it on my Facebook page. That's the easiest. I saw that Francine's on Facebook. So you can do that. It's also on my YouTube channel. And it's every
Maybe I
day. Let's see, it's every day
wonder.
I have a different person. So in Europe,
Yeah,
it might be a little late because I start at 12 here. So it's like 9
it's
o'clock for you.
okay.
But
It's okay. I listen to it just most all every night
oh,
when
okay.
I'm free.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, Effie, can we put anything in the link here or anything? There's nothing like that, right? And on Restream. But I will put the link afterwards, definitely.
Okay, great.
All right. Yeah. And so continue.
Yeah. Well, I was born in Boston, where I lived till I was 21. And my family was musical. My mom had been a singer. My dad was a sax player and teacher and had a big band. And I had two twin sisters, about 4 years older than I. And
Uh-huh.
yeah, that was my sister Margie and Edie. Here's a funny picture of them and me. And so
Sisterly
we grew
love.
up singing. And they had really beautiful voices, very natural harmony together. And one played the piano perfect. So the
Mm.
three of us were, grew up singing all the music of the day, the jazz music, because my dad and mom were into more jazz.
Mm-hmm.
And oh, look, the sun is shining. How nice. Hello. So I never quite see that.
Oh, I can imagine. We jazz musicians, we don't get up too early.
So yeah, so I was always singing, and I used to like help my dad around the house, and Ella Fitzgerald would be on in the background, people like that.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
yeah, and also I grew up in a small house, so my room was next to the living room where he taught every weekend his, sax students. So I'd always hear that, the training,
Yeah.
and then we started performing with my dad on his gigs, and of course for the family, right? Because I mean, any family would hire my dad to do the music. So we were
Sure.
always performing since like age 12. My sisters
Okay.
and I did whatever came up. We did old age homes, we did, hootenannies. We did everything that came up because my mother was like a very positive action person, and I learned a little guitar, and I wanted to learn violin, which was interesting to me later. But my mother said I had the perfect lips for flute. So I learned flute, which I
Oh,
still play.
really?
Yeah,
Oh, we've got a lot of similarities. I studied flute at the university.
I'm sure we
And
talked about that.
yeah, and my both my parents were singers, and we used to sing. My sisters and I used to sing, doing the dishes, all kinds of harmonies and so on and so forth. So I can really feel uh, what you were doing back then. And
Yeah,
then you
we
studied flute.
studied flute, and then I I I decided to go to Berklee College of Music for flute and arranging and composition. I was kind of young. I think I was 18. No, yeah, 18 or 19. Yeah, I was 18. And
Hmm.
they didn't have voice at the time anyway. Do you know how many
Hmm.
voice students they have now? I just interviewed Chris Adams from there.
Okay.
Only voice students we're talking about.
Okay.
1900.
Oh, you got to be kidding.
I'm not kidding.
For anyone who doesn't know the Berklee School of Music, it's like the school to go to in Boston, in the world. If anybody is anybody, they go to Berklee, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And now they have 1,900 singers. Where are they all going to get jobs,
I
Cathy?
don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Uh,
But it's just so
okay.
interesting. 1900. Anyway, um, so yeah, so I
And they
went to
didn't have
Berkeley.
any when you started out, no singers.
No singers. The year I left, they got a vocal department.
Uh-huh. Okay.
But that was a great experience for me because first of all, it was the 70s, the mid 70s, and I hi Taylor, hi, good morning.
Hello,
Uh,
Taylor.
so yeah, so it was the mid 70s, and well, not only did I get my own taste in music now going, because I had previously had my dad's taste in music, which I love too. But now I was developing my own taste. And also, that time period was, especially in Boston, was so rich with music. It had everything from Motown to ECM music to, I was listening to Miles Davis. I discovered Weather Report. You
Mhm.
know, I listened a lot to instrumentalists, more so than
Well,
jazz vocalists.
that is actually what I'm trying to tell my students in my 5-day challenge, that you've got to listen to the instrumentalists, because they're the ones that show you how to phrase, how to improvise, how, you know, that's
How to
really, it's a
swing. Yeah,
the biggest teaching is listening to the instrumentalists, right?
it really is. And even the instrumentalists say that, just listening in general and
Yeah.
listening and real listening, you know, listening over, you know,
Hmm.
to something, really, really soaking it in.
Really digging into it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think that's something that has gone astray in our day to in our, we say heutigen Tag, in our day that we live in, that people really don't take the time enough to listen to things, right? We're so
Yeah.
used to everything go fast, fast, fast on the
Fast,
internet.
fast. Yeah. Yeah. It's
What
it's
was
definitely
that message that was on
that was
there?
from
Had what?
Roland. That was from my friend Roland
Had a
Ascarones, and
hard
he
time
said,
trying to find
yeah.
you. Oh, really?
Well, he was
Okay.
um on my post, my original posting, I put the addresses where to go, but on yours, you had your website. So maybe he had to go
Oh,
in that way.
I didn't realize that. Okay. Anyways, continue.
Yeah,
You
so
got to Berkeley. You started studying flute and composition. You did not study voice at that time. And how long were you there?
yeah, I was there 2.5 years, and it was great. I mean, I had a community, of I
Hmm.
always had a community before, like in high school and various things, but this was a jazz community, and yeah, it was a really wonderful time. It was a great time. And then I
Hmm.
wanted to move because uh, for more personal reasons. I just wanted to get kind of a distance from my mother, who was very controlling, and I was very uncontrolled. So
You were a hippie. Come on.
I was a hippie. It's true.
Well, me too. I was a hippie back then too.
I'm sure. I'm very cute hippie, I'm sure.
I had long hair down to here. I was touring all over the world. Well, not all over the world, all through Europe with my flute in a rock band. I was a real hippie, and even my kids say today, "Mom, you're just a hippie," because I don't like to do things that is the normal, what normal people do at normal ages and all that stuff, right? So, anyways,
Yeah.
continue, my love. So, where did you go?
Well, yes, we do, Taylor. We do have our ways. Well, I went to San Francisco first, and then but San Francisco was too much like Boston, and so after I think it was 6 months or so, I moved down to LA, and in the first year or two, I was thinking of going to New York, and then I met my first husband. So
Hmm.
of course we know what happens then. So I stayed.
The hormones go crazy, right?
Yeah, and he was not gonna. He wasn't a moving type of person. He was an artist. He was a incredible artist, both visual and musical, and from a very interesting Mexican background. His mother was a very famous bolero singer, like from since she had been 14, and his father was one of the most famous composers Mexico had, Gonzalo Curiel,
Yeah, I
and
thought he was. Hmm.
yeah. So he really had incredible music in him, and he had taught himself this amazing Latin jazz guitar, and he was quite
Hmm.
an amazing person. Taught me a lot, and then over the first bunch of years, I started working a lot. I like I had a 2-year job every week, of which it was really quite a good learning experience because um, they would pay each person $5 on a meal. So you can imagine who wanted to work for that, right? So, but at that time in LA, in the late, actually that was a little bit late or late 70s, early 80s. There were a lot of people really interested in playing and creating. And of course, there were those, who didn't want to come out of the house for that. But one time I had trumpet and drums.
Oh.
But I learned a whole lot in those 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
As they say, you learn more from your mistakes or
Oh,
difficulties,
yeah,
right?
that's
And
true.
so I started writing during that time. I learned how my charts operated, what people read better, and got to practice all kinds of music.
Mm-hmm.
I had known a lot of standards from when I was growing up, but there's always more to
Yeah.
learn.
So
And
when did you get into jazz?
when I was 5.
Okay, when did you start performing jazz gigs?
When I was 12.
Oh,
So,
oh,
but
okay. When did you start earning your living as a jazz musician?
um I guess more so in college, and there was a point where in college I decided to travel the jazz route instead of like the Woodstock route, because I really loved the Woodstock music.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and but I thought about it. I actually, it was a decision that I made,
Mm-hmm.
and I
Mm-hmm.
I decided to go to jazz.
Mm-hmm. How old were you then?
Like 18 or something.
Okay, so you started
Yeah.
pretty well. Actually, you started almost like birth to
Yeah.
listen to
I
jazz
started.
and singing jazz standards and
Yeah.
getting all of that under your belt before you were even starting to get you know. Did you study after that? After Boston,
Um,
as vocal in the vocal area?
oh, well, okay. So I started studying voice in college with a few different people. There was, I don't know if you've ever heard of, what's it? I can't remember his first name. McClure is his last name. It was a kind of a famous book. As a matter of
Hmm.
fact, Rebecca Paris, who was like one of the greatest jazz singers who ever lived, she, that was her uncle. She was
Oh,
singing
wow.
rock and roll, and then she switched to jazz around that time.
Hmm.
But
What's her
yeah, I
name?
can't remember.
Rebecca Paris.
Paris, yeah.
I don't know her.
Check her out. She's passed on, but she really was a great
Oh,
singer.
okay. Like Paris, like Paris?
Yes. Hmm.
Oh, okay.
And
Good.
so I took because in college I wasn't singing properly, and I was, in those days the gigs included everything, jazz and
Oh,
R&B, and
okay.
everything. So I wasn't singing correctly, and I was beginning to get nodes.
Hmm.
So I took lessons, and then I think from one teacher, and then I left there and I came to LA. I studied my best teacher in the early days was this woman named Helen McComas, who taught out of a book of Shistroff. I don't know if you know these names, but you probably know who was the guy? Oh, I forget his name. Very famous. I'll think of it after a while.
Yeah.
Anyway, Shistroff and this book, which I always love to look through, Vocal Wisdom by Lamperti. Do you know this book?
No, I would love to. Could you put that in a chat or send it to me or
I will. I'll
the
send
the
it to you.
author so I can give this on to the other singers here who are going
Yeah.
to be listening, right?
This is such a great book. I mean, you can see how I've marked it off everywhere.
Wow.
You open it
Wow.
up, and it just anywhere you open it, it's that
And
kind
who's
of
the
book.
author?
Well, it's the maxims of Giovanni Battista Lamperti, who was a very
Mm,
famous singer and teacher, but it's
mm-hmm.
arranged by a man named William Brown, and it's called
Mm-hmm.
Vocal Wisdom. And you can get a paperback or hard
Okay.
copy.
All
But
right.
so yeah, but Helen gave me a lot of great information, very technical about the vocal cords, and that was kind of her focus. And two of my other girlfriends also were going to her, and we could sit in on lessons
Okay.
and take notes. We not speak, not like interrupt the lesson, but we could observe.
Just listen.
Yeah, and so she grew a lot of teachers, you know, and that was really super helpful. I did that for years and years, and I'm
Okay.
still taking lessons now, especially because in the
Who do you
last
take lessons from?
two people actually. I take lessons from a classical teacher who really gets me, gets that I'm a teacher and that I'm spiritual. His name is
Yeah.
Stephen Kronauer,
Mm-hmm.
and he teaches big people too. Who's been a student since she was 12 is uh, let's see if I'll remember her name. But with a B. She's very famous now. She's a pop singer. She and her brother.
Mm-hmm.
Um, she's super famous. But it's gosh, sorry.
It'll come up. It'll come up.
And
So,
she's a pop singer, and that's why I don't. It's
mhm.
like not on the tip of my tongue. And I also
Okay.
take from Theo Blackman. Do you know
Oh,
Theo?
really? Yeah, of course. He's
Mhm.
from Germany.
Yeah, I take from him because
He's a colleague of mine.
his teaching is kind of from Jeannie Levitri.
Oh, okay.
And Jeannie Levitri has taught a lot of people that you and I admire, Kate McGarry and Luciana Souza, and the singer in Boston who teaches at New England Conservatory.
Mm-hmm.
You know her. Anyway, but Theo, you have to find the right teacher, don't you? It's like
Yeah, you
somebody
do.
that
The
you
right
really
teacher.
resonate with.
Yeah, some teachers you may not like even though they're great teachers, right? So, Billie Eilish. Oh
Yes,
yeah.
thank you. Billie Eilish. Thanks
Eilish.
for
Oh
calling.
yeah. Okay, no, I've heard of him. Yeah, and I say this also to my students. Not every teacher is the right person for every student. And you have to find out the teacher that you like the way they teach, you like the way they are as a person. There has to be as we say in Germany, a chemie, a chemistry between you, right? And
Absolutely.
yeah, because some teachers just more than enough. Yes, for sure. Yeah, and this is it. I mean, I get a lot of students, and they've been taking lessons. I don't know for how long, but they still don't know how to breathe. And I'm thinking, well, where were you then? But when you're starting out to study voice or study jazz, you don't know if the teacher's good. You have to find out, right? You have to find out,
Yeah,
and
you do, and you do have to have that chemistry. It has to happen, and I've taken, I've tried out lessons with a lot of different people, and even people who teach well. I'm like, well,
okay.
not excited, but see, I've had a chronic cough for 20 years. So over the years, especially the last like 7 years, I've noticed how it's affected my breathing and singing. So because my body's afraid to take a breath.
Yeah,
So,
sure.
but in the last year or I guess 2 years, I've really felt like my voice has gotten over the hump back to where I like it.
Well,
Other
that's
other
great.
people don't, yeah, other people don't seem to have a problem with it, but I do.
Yeah, well, everybody has a certain problem that they have to get over, whatever it is. I mean, we're all carrying our own. I'm translating in German. I'm so sorry. I think in
It's
German,
okay.
everyone, right? I teach in well, I actually no, I'm teaching in English, but I'm always looking for vocabulary. Everybody has their own thing to carry, we say in German, right? Your own
Yes.
package to carry.
Yes.
And so where you have a difficulty, someone else, Cathy knows this, and I'm sure you do as well, Judy, but it's when you like a certain teacher's educational philosophy, you will gain a lot of experience and you will help shape that in your teaching philosophy. Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to be on the same track, right? And for
Yeah.
me, it's also a spiritual thing, like for you. And I think that's what connects us, Cathy, is that we're both on a spiritual path, not only as a teacher, but also as a performer. So I'd like to get a little bit more into the music, being a student of teaching styles. Yes. Uh, who was your first? Who was the biggest influence on you as a singer?
Um,
Like some
Probably,
people would say Ella Fitzgerald or Sarah
yeah.
Vaughan or
Well, when I was young, and listening to my dad's music, I listened to Ella Fitzgerald, Rosemary Clooney, Judy Garland, um, the Hi-Los,
mhm,
Frank Sinatra. So that was
mhm.
what I grew up listening to. And then, of course, I got into the rock thing, right? So there's all those wonderful rock singers who sang great. I mean, their storytelling and phrasing, and sometimes their voice quality. Aretha, Chaka Khan,
Oh yeah,
Joni
Rita.
Mitchell, uh, Laura Nero. All of
Oh,
those
I
singers.
love Laura Nero.
Yeah,
I've
because
even recorded a couple of her tunes, by the way, right?
oh, yeah, it's
I
great.
loved her. And I also performed some of her tunes. I love Laura Nero.
Yeah, well, those singers, in
See, the
the
people
more of
listening
the
here,
freestyle.
they won't know who Laura Nero is. Does anybody who is listening know Laura Nero? I bet you don't.
Well, Roland and Taylor do, but
Okay.
but yeah,
Well,
but those
going
singers.
down the S-E-N, I never wanted to go down the D. Mama let me die all over, dated me. Oh, I loved her. Loved her, loved her, loved her. Yeah.
Well,
Claudia does. Hi, Claudia. She remembered. She knows her. Okay. Yeah, so let's get into some of your first professional, like not when you were 12, but when you were starting to really get a name for yourself.
Yeah.
What more or less was your direction? Like, were you into the singing the American songbook, or were you more into your own compositions at that time? Were you one of these singing standards singer or what?
Well, okay. First of all, when I started making a living, or doing jobs for money, it was during college. So in college, I was singing a lot of standards. Uh, that was in demand, but I was also singing funk and rock because I was doing
Mhm.
gigs that included everything. And which I think, and I did that for years because in LA, when I was in LA and a young singer here, that time period, we worked at least 10 gigs a week. And that included,
What?
yep, we um, did like
We're
club gigs.
we're still young chickens here.
And Roland's even younger. Right, Roland? So yeah, uh we did sorry, I lost my oh yeah, we did gigs that had all the different music. So we worked hard. Even a wedding, you would start with jazz and then get into rock and
Okay.
funk.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, but I remember loving rock and funk and singing it because it gave me a very strong rhythmic
Mhm.
satisfaction, right?
Yeah.
And
Right.
learning. So I
Yeah.
remember that very well. But I also had great lessons along the way. Like I did a jazz gig with one of a very famous stride player, and it was two sets. And the first set, I was trying to sing like him, which wasn't working because I never sang stride, that was never my style. So at the break, I remember just kind of being, oh God, this is not fun. And I thought, I'm just going to sing how I sing,
Yeah.
because
Just be
it's not
yourself.
fun. Yeah. So what happened on the second set was magical because I was being
Mhm.
myself, and he was being himself. And that was a huge lesson, you know. It was yeah, you study and do all your studying, and you get everything inside of you, and then you just
Exactly.
go
And then you
have a good
just go and
time
be
and be
yourself.
yourself.
And
Yeah.
that sort of brings us really into the topic of the day, doesn't it? How to
Yeah.
become an authentic jazz singer. Now, I know you've done all kinds of other cool stuff, but I really would like to get into the educational part because you're really well known as an educator, and I really appreciate your knowledge and your expertise as an educator.
Thanks.
So, yeah, she's taught all over the place, and she's done all kinds of courses, and she's just amazing, this woman, Cathy. So, Cathy, tell our singers, well, whoever else is listening, of course, what leads you to become a real authentic jazz singer? Is it just becoming yourself, or learning the vocal techniques first and then allowing yourself just to find out who you are? What do you think about that?
Well, first of all, I think, like you said a while ago, listening. And I think that's a huge part of it, because that's what gets inside of your soul and your head and your body. It gets inside of you when you listen to things over and over again, as we spoke. You know, um, I I remember this little thing that I did when I was in college. Actually, I figured this out. At that time, we used cassette tapes, and I picked everything that I loved from any record at all, and I put it on a cassette tape. I filled up 2 cassette tapes. Now, it could have been a bar of something, or 4 bars, or
Hmm.
longer. And then I went back and I wrote down everything that I liked about each thing. And it,
Wow.
yeah, it was really a cool idea, because I realized what I love, what
Yeah.
right? Things like a fretless bass sound, or an inflection, or a tone, or a phrasing thing.
Hmm.
Um, so I think listening is really crucial. And then also, I think performing, well, not necessarily, well, performing, yes, but the action of getting together with a musician and making music. And that could be rehearsing,
Absolutely.
or yeah. But we did it so much. As I said, we did at least 10 gigs a week,
I'm,
during one period.
you mean there's only 7 days in the week, so you did some days 2 gigs?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. So um especially a young singer, I think you should take any work at all, because
Absolutely.
right, because then you get to
That's what
play
I
with your
tell my
musicians.
students. When you're starting out, just play wherever you can. Even for your family, or in a church, or in an old folks' home, or anywhere, or your cafe around the corner, wherever you can perform, you do it
Yeah.
to get experience. And I get my singers to get a program together so that they can just go out and get a musician, get a pianist or a guitarist or
Yeah, yeah,
somebody,
exactly.
and start to play together. And maybe maybe get a nice little program of 10 pieces together, and you can go out and see where you can perform. There's all kinds of places when you got your eyes open, right?
Yeah, and as we're talking, the idea of experience, I think, needs to be discussed a little bit, because we all hear that and say that you have to go get experience. What what does experience mean? What is it going to give you? It's going to give you the experience of playing with a musician, a live person who plays a unique way, because they're a unique individual. And you're going to have that relationship. You're going to see what can happen, what are the good things, what are the bad things. How do you relate to this person, what's good and bad, what kind of music are you picking, is it a guitarist, is it a pianist, what's the difference, What's your key? What groove do you like? What tempo do you like? Learning the words, the lyrics, so that you really know the lyrics, and how does that feel when you sing them? Like knowing the lyrics as opposed to reading the lyrics, and there's so many different things. And in front of people, of course, there's that, oh, I'm singing in front of someone, and
Yeah.
which can be terrifying or wonderful, or it can be anything and everything, right? Because life is full of improvisation. It's always improvised. I mean,
It
we're
always
improvising
goes
right now, you know,
exactly. It always goes differently than you think. Always. And
always.
that is part of improvising, learning how to improvise. Now, what do you think about, for example, like at the university, we had to learn the solos of Miles Davis and write down and transcribe the solos of maybe Charlie Parker and so on. So, do you think that's a good idea?
I do, and for various reasons. I did that when I was in college, for various reasons also. I learned certain musicians' solos, and I also, uh, yes, it does, and which is great. Failure is the greatest teacher, right? But so I also I learned all those vocal solos like Twisted and Red Top by
Yeah.
writing them down.
Yeah.
They weren't written anywhere at that time.
Wow.
I wrote them down, and I just by writing them down. Hi, Nora. Thank you. Just by
I
writing
can
them.
believe that. I think she's wonderful too, and I've never had a lesson from her, but
Thank you.
I just might ask her to get one day. So
It'd be fun to exchange.
yeah,
Um,
see different methods of
yeah,
how we one teaches.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But let's see. What was I saying? Oh, writing down solos.
Yeah, writing down your solos.
So here's what's cool, and I want to tell your students this too. Um, the cool thing is you don't have to write it down perfectly. The
Mhm.
action of listening, like there'd be a line come up that was so difficult, and I thought, I am never gonna be able to learn that line. And then I'd listen to it again, and I'd say, I'm not gonna be able, and I'd listen to it again, and I was like, oh well, I could write down this part, and then I'd listen to it again. Anyway, after about 7 or 8 times, I actually knew the line,
Yeah.
and I I didn't force myself to write it super accurately. I just wrote it how I was thinking, because as it became on the page, I knew what it was because I had learned it by listening 7 or 8 times.
Yeah.
So it's really valuable because then you get it. You
Mhm.
understand. You know, my little red top. You understand the groove.
Yeah.
Instead of da 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 da,
We were
something like
just talking
that.
about that today. How to swing a tune. That was our topic today in the 5-day challenge.
And
That fits
that is,
perfectly.
yeah, that is an interesting lesson, how to swing, how to groove, how to swing. I know Jay Clayton gets people up, and she makes them walk around the room in time to the music. Walk, walk,
Mhm.
you know, and which it works really well. Yeah, I mean, I have a friend who teaches groove for Latin songs. I love this. He says, I gotcha, I getcha, I gotcha, I getcha. Do, 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 do.
Mhm.
And, there are different little tools that you can use. But, and I'm taking piano, as I told you. Now, I can swing singing, but I can't swing playing a melody yet. And it's interesting, but the 2 and 4 have to be emphasized in the, boom, boom, ba-doom, da-doom, right? And
Yeah, yeah.
that's a lot to get into my this body.
Yeah, we were just talking about that today in our lesson, right? To be
Yeah,
able to use the backbeat on the 2 and the 4, and to use the triplet feeling at the same time, get the
yeah,
beat in your feet and still sing the melody. You know, once you get
yeah,
those 3 things together. Yeah, and I think that's on an instrument, on a piano. Yeah, it's different, isn't it? So,
yeah.
but
Um,
back to being an authentic singer.
yeah,
Um, do you think it's necessary for an authentic singer to be able to read music, to have all of the theory and the harmony, and what about vocal techniques? What basis does
well,
a vocal singer need, a vocal jazz singer, to become an authentic singer, in your opinion?
yeah. So this is a bone of contention for a lot of people, right? First of all, vocal technique, I'm a big fan of. I think,
Me too, Cathy. That's my
yeah,
number one.
yeah. I think, and like if you have a problem with intonation, that means your vocal technique is not happening. So you got to get your vocal technique together. That's you just have to do it. You have to
Yeah,
if you want to be a serious singer.
it's
Now, as
basis,
far
right?
as sorry,
It's basis.
yeah, you have to have it.
Yeah.
You have to. You have to put in the work. You have to practice
You know, and
daily.
this
You
is
have to
this
do
is
it.
something that I've noticed. I've seen other colleagues. They start out in a for example in a 5-day challenge with improvising, and I think they don't even know how to sing a note yet.
Yeah,
And I'm really very. Do you say this word in English? Adamant.
adamant.
Adamant. Oh, it's adamant in English. Okay.
Yeah,
About learning the vocal techniques first of all before you start to improvise, so that you're able to use your chest voice and your mixed voice and your head voice and all that stuff. Yeah, continue.
yeah. But as far as the music theory and learning how to read music, I mean I've known well the great Nancy King doesn't read music.
Yeah.
She's one of the best jazz singers ever lived.
Hmm.
Um, but she listened and
Yeah.
sang a
Yeah, well,
lot.
yeah, and I think a lot of jazz singers in the earlier times, like in the time of Ella Fitzgerald and
Yeah.
Sarah Vaughan, a lot of them did not read music and
However, the greats like Sarah and Carmen
play
played
piano.
piano great.
Yeah.
So the thing is, it's not only that you should know music theory, that it would behoove you to know it. It would make you smarter. It's not only that. It's really about how much do you love the music. If you
Yeah.
love the music, you will love it even more if you get into the theory and the application of it. You don't want to torture yourself. Oh, I have to
No.
practice. You
No.
want to go,
Exactly. It
I want to
becomes love.
practice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Roland is asking, do you feel that
I
sometimes?
understand.
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily that. I think that it's a perspective. It's a spiritual and philosophical perspective. If you want to be an original singer, then that is a desire all itself. Now, I mean, how many singer songwriters have we heard that drive us crazy because they only use two chords forever, right?
Hmm.
Back and forth, and sing like a limited range. And it's like I just feel like going up to them and saying, you should study some music. Open your
Yeah.
mind, open your ears.
Well, that's
It'll
it. We as
improve your
jazz
writing.
music, yeah, we as jazz singers, we want to be a musician, right? If you want to become a musician, a jazz musician, then you are so excited. I remember when I started getting into jazz. I heard the first chords of Con Alma, where Dizzy Gillespie was here in Germany, and Mike Longo played the first chords, and I, oh, that's what I want to do. That's amazing. And I went the next week and started singing jazz. And this addiction just got worse, right? It's like being addicted. You're just
Yeah.
what's around the corner. And what happens when you get a we call it in German a Kreuz 11. That means a sharp 11 or a flat 9. How does that make it sound? Like, it's just like being so full of curiosity and so full of love for the music. Like, I can't stop this. I want more. I want to, yeah, right. And so
Yeah.
I think it doesn't, like I tell my singers too, you got to put some work into it. Like, you just can't think, oh, I'd like to get a couple of lessons and then I'm going to, I'm going to
Yeah.
start earning my living with singing jazz. It doesn't work that way. Right? You
Right.
got to be in love with the music. You got to be in love with jazz. You got to be in love with learning how to get better. I'm sure you'll agree with me, Cathy. We will never be perfect, ever, ever, ever. There's always something to learn. And I think that is, for me, is so amazing. I think, gee whiz. Some people say, am I too old to learn? You're never too old to learn how to sing. Never. And to become a good jazz musician, if you start, you can't learn everything all at once. I still have a lot to learn. Probably you do too, right? There's just so much out there. It's just so exciting to learn all this stuff. And you can't do it in one day. It takes time,
You
right?
can't.
And
I have
no.
things to say about that. I totally agree with you. And perfection, I think perfection is real perfection is a balance of things. I think it's a balance of sound and rhythm and understanding, philosophy and breathing, and I think it's a balance of things. That's what real perfection is for me. And also, I was listening to yesterday. I was interviewing a guitar player, Barry Coates, and there was a really beautiful solo piece that he had on. You're right, Claudia. Perfect is really not exciting, and
It's
I'm not
boring.
I'm not going to say names, but there are a number of singers who have risen to fame in the recent days that I think they're very good, but I
Mhm.
I don't want to listen to them.
They don't give you goosebumps.
No, what gives me goosebumps is an authentic singer, a
Exactly. Now
person
we
who's
come
really
back,
connected to
right?
their soul. Yeah.
Yeah. And
And
another time,
I just wanted to say about this guitar. So
yeah.
he has the kind of guitar that he has effects on, and he was playing. Uh, I can't remember what he was playing. I don't think it was Alfie. I think it was something else. But anyway, he was, and I was listening, and I've had a love affair with that kind of guitar sound forever. And I was listening to it, and I was really marveling at the fact that it was not one single tone. It wasn't this like one common tone. It had all this um kind of feather comforter around the tone. It had other notes in there, like harmonics, and because of the forward motion of it, it was a song and beautiful. But the idea that there's more to it than just this one dimension, which I think the perfect singer nowadays is kind of one dimensional,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
doesn't fill
Well,
out that yummy stuff
hmm
that we need.
yeah, I just wanted to bring to mention. I've asked my students, what kind of what person, when you're hearing two singers, one has the perfect vocal techniques, their breathing, their tone, their everything, their rhythmic abilities. The other singer is it's just the same, but one affects you and one doesn't. What is that? Why does one singer get under your skin, or as soon as they open your mouth, you're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And the other singer is singing perfect, and you're saying, that's nice, but it doesn't affect you. And I think it has to do with your personality. To be a good jazz singer, you have to be able to give. Singers have to have multiple layers when they perform.
That's
Yes, they
right.
do.
That's right.
Right. And I
Exactly.
think it's not, if you're doing everything just from perfection, you're not, I think, then where's your soul? Where's your soul in that music? And I think that is what, for me, is what is an authentic jazz singer, is someone who is really being themselves. As you say, just be yourself. Don't try to imitate somebody, or, I hear some singers, they put so many nuances and runs in their singing, that it just becomes mechanical. And I think that's the thing too, is that you want, as a jazz singer, you want to touch the hearts of your listeners. And
Yeah.
once you've got the technique, you just put it behind you. You just throw it
Right.
away. And then you
Right.
just for me, it's letting the spirit work through me and allowing me to be able to be inspired. Maybe it's going to be a real soft, maybe I'm not going to show my technique at all.
Right.
Right? It's got to be something that you are inspired about. Maybe you're going to sing that song, and next night you sing it completely different, because you're in a different mood and a different
Yeah.
feeling,
Well,
right?
there's a few things that you said. Well, I mean, what you said equals communication. And
Yeah.
communication is something that is challenging in our field. It's challenging to be in the right state of being, to be able to like stay in the middle of a band and know the music and have all this technique behind us and communicate. Simply communicate and be ourselves. It's challenging, majorly challenging. I mean, that's why Berkeley has the effortless mastery department. For 7 years they've had it. Kenny Werner's book,
Wow.
effortless mastery. I mean, that's kind of mind blowing all by itself, because that is what's worthwhile. It's worthwhile to you, the performer, and it's worthwhile to the listener. But it's challenging. It's hard to be yourself in that situation, even if you're good at it with your girlfriend, being yourself. It's really challenging, right? Oh,
Roland, it's a
oh,
term
Roland,
used in
you just gave
flamenco.
me goosebumps.
Yeah, to try to find that hard to pinpoint, that indefinable something that gives you those goosebumps. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Duende. I'm gonna write that down. I like that. That needs to be a name of something, and I'm sure it is, like a song or a band or
Yeah,
something.
you know what, Kathy, I could talk to you forever. You are so amazing, and I just love you to bits. And I think
I love you
I am so
too.
thrilled that I can have you here on the show today. And I would like to now come slowly to the end. I know there's so many topics that we really didn't, even be
I
able, we weren't
know.
even able to touch. I think you're going to have to come back and we'll talk about this. What are your plans now for your upcoming future? What's happening in your life? I think you got a new CD out. Is that true?
Yeah. I've been very consistent with CDs, and partly because I have a benefactor who's supported me in that. So I think I'm on number
Wow,
50.
lucky you.
Yes, very lucky, amazingly lucky, and very appreciative. So I just came out with Social Anthems Volume 1, which has been getting very nice reviews.
Yeah, I heard
And
a
I'm
couple of
just,
tracks. It's
yeah,
wonderful.
thank you. And I'm just actually putting the finishing touches on the next release, which is you probably would like to hear it. A live duo recording of me and a piano player who traveled mostly Japan together for years, Philip Strange. And so I found a live duo recording that was recorded onto DAT from 1993. So I'm just putting the finishing touches on that, and that's going to be released with the new label that I've with Origin Records. But I think I have 3 projects in the can that I have to redo vocals and clean up. I'm also doing producing along the way too. Like I'm I have several projects that I've produced over the last few years for singers, and which I like producing as well. And I kind of self-produce too, right? So you're welcome, Nora. Um,
Thank you, Nora.
but yeah, being in the studio is interesting. Oh, thanks, Linda. Thank you. Yeah, being in the studio is interesting because there's a lot to learn about being in the studio and um, talking about, being authentic and on the mic. And it's challenging. I will say it's very challenging being in the studio.
Mhm.
Thank you, Claudia.
You're so
Um,
welcome.
yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I know you've got about 14 albums on the market, right?
Yeah, I do. Or
Ah,
15, I'm
amazing.
not sure. And
Yeah.
also, we are doing live gigs now. So I do several gigs a month. Um, yeah, so
Oh,
uh
great.
that's good too. I mean, especially right now, it's
It's
you
a
know,
it's a gift almost, isn't it?
it is a gift and it's challenging because you get out there and you haven't sung for
Yeah.
3 weeks and it's like, "Oh," and even though you've been practicing every day, it's like, "Oh, is this working?" And you have to
Yeah.
rearrange your mind,
Right.
you know?
Do I know when the chorus is at the end? Do I know where to come in?
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
before we leave, what would be your last words to the singers, especially the singers starting out here today? What would be your words of wisdom to them in a 1 or 2 sentences?
Well, I guess a few things like be yourself. This is number 1. Be interested and be in the moment and do your work, commit yourself to doing your work. And if you're yourself and you're interested and you're in the moment, you can't lose. You really can't lose.
Okay, thank you very much, Kathy. And would you say they should get a teacher or they can do this on their own?
Well, I think having a teacher, obviously, I think having a teacher at any age is great. Especially if you're trying to learn jazz. Um, if you're trying to learn jazz, it's really helpful to have somebody who's already there and can at least point you in the right directions, but you still have to do the work, right? So
Exactly.
I
Mhm.
like having a teacher. Francine, that's probably a big topic. So sorry, I
I
can't
think
answer
we'll
that.
bring I think we'll have to bring Kathy back to talk just on that topic. That is a really important topic for most singers, right? Once they're
Yeah,
getting their chops up and practicing, how do I get my gigs, right?
yeah,
So you'll come back, Kathy, would you?
sure.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for listening. And thank you so much, Kathy, for getting up so early this morning. She's in Los Angeles. And so I guess you must have got up around 7 o'clock this morning,
I did, which
right?
is unusual for me, but it's okay. Every now and then I can do it.
Yeah, well, you were very much awake, and we really, really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for your
Thank
being here,
you.
and I wish you all the very best of luck with your upcoming albums and work.
Thank
And
you.
we'll keep in. We're girlfriends. We're staying in touch, anyways, right?
You too. Yes, you too. And good luck on your good luck handling your 5-day challenge. And I'm sure it's going to be really fun.
Oh, we are
Uh,
having a lot of
a lot of
fun. It's
lot of work for you, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It is quite a bit, quite a challenge, but I'm enjoying it and I love, I just love seeing people start to work on their voice and get,
I do
get
too.
and all of a sudden they start getting progress and
Yeah.
this is so exciting as a teacher. I love being a performer, but I love being a teacher, and it's so rewarding. So, my love, we'll keep in touch, and let me know with your new album. I'll send a mail out to my list and let them know.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's do this again sometime, Cathy, okay?
All right. Have a
Maybe at a
great
later date.
later time. Yeah.
Yeah, and thanks
Okay.
everyone for being here. Thank you so, so much. Thank you, Claudia, and all of the rest of you that were on the show today. Spread this around because I'm going to be having Jana Siegel in April
Oh, cool.
coming on the show, and she's from Manhattan Transfer, so that's going to be kind of cool too. But first
Yeah.
of all, I'm going into hospital with my knee project. That's my next project, Cathy.
Good luck. Good
Thank
luck.
you. Thank you. All right. Take care, everyone. Have a great evening. And thanks again, Cathy. We love you.
Thank you. Love you too.